Welcome to Chronicles of Old Singapore. This is Dr Loh KS, the people's historian, and I speak to people on the memories of Singapore before it became a global city. Do like the video and subscribe for future episodes. This will help us really a lot. Thank you. This morning, I think we're going to have a very interesting podcast. Our guest today is going to tell us about the Malayalees of Singapore. So, good morning, Ullas. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Dr. Loh, for having me on this podcast. Thank you very much. Really
Kasing,
appreciate
please.
it.
Kasing would do. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Kasim.
Yeah. So this is part of our series on the communities of Singapore. Previously, we had a really good, one of the best episodes actually, I think, on the Sikhs of Singapore. Another Indian minority. I think just slightly less in numbers than the Malayalees. And so not to put too much pressure on you. But
That's all right.
no problem. I'm really looking forward to it. And because a few years ago I worked on a project, heritage project on the Sri Narayana mission. I think almost entirely the membership of the mission has been Malayalees. It was mostly based in the naval base in the early days, and of course, it's more broad these days. So I learned something about Malayalees and their history and their food and also their devotion to Sri Narayana Guru. So what we want to do today is to look a bit more broadly at the Malayali community, right? So when I was at the mission doing that project, they would always tell me the Malayalees are the largest minority in the Indian population in Singapore.
That's right.
And
Yes.
of course, how prominent and how significant the community has been in the history of Singapore. I want to start today by kind of looking at Ullas himself. It's quite interesting. He was recommended to me by another Malayali, Misunu, whom I interviewed as part of the research on the Narayana mission. And I met you, right, Ullas, a couple of weeks
Yes,
ago, and I was wondering,
absolutely.
who is this guy? I must meet him.
Yeah.
So Ullas, tell us about your background, and I understand you were not born here. You came to Singapore, right?
I was born in a place called Kilimanur near Trivandrum in Kerala. And I did all my schoolings in the famous painter Raja Ravi Verma. He's supposed to be a world-known painter from India.
Mm.
And from then onwards, I had gone to the city at the age of 14 in Trivandrum. I did my pre-university in Trivandrum and then went on to do my bachelor's in engineering in a place called Palakkad. From then, I went to the city of Bangalore. I had the fortune to study in Indian Institute of Science to do my master's in electronics design. At the time, I had been doing a project for a Canadian company called Mitel Semiconductor, which at that time used to have their headquarters in Singapore. That got me an opportunity to get a position in Singapore, and that's my history from Kerala and to Singapore.
So you are a completely technical guy, yeah?
Absolutely, yes. So I wanted to probably become an engineer and specifically on the electronic side. So I had the opportunity to study close to my hometown to do mechanical engineering. But because of my love for electronics, I wanted to move to this farther northern side of Kerala, and which also happens to be a different culture altogether compared to the southern part.
Mm.
So it was a first entire culturally different move for me. Then I had another cultural shock when I moved to Bangalore in a metropolitan city. And then I got the chance to move to Singapore, which was another shock, I should say, to me. But this time, a much more cosmopolitan city.
When was it you moved to Singapore?
I came and permanently got the job in 1999. I have been to Singapore a couple of times before that on my transition journeys to other places and so on. But it was in 1999 that I came and started my job here.
Yeah, I mean that experience of yours multiple times moving and within India and then eventually to Singapore. So what's your position and relationship with Singapore now after what 26 years, right?
Yes, so I believe I have not been fortunate enough to get my citizenship yet, but I have been a permanent resident here. I have applied multiple times, and I guess waiting for Singapore to give me the citizenship. But in general, I should say, irrespective of the status of immigration, I can confidently say that Singapore is probably my first home now,
Mm.
and I have been rooted significantly into the community and the cultural activities of Singapore.
Mm. I mean, the first thing that struck me when I talked to you, right, was you didn't have a strong Indian accent. You almost sound like a Singaporean.
Yeah,
can can
I mean, a lot of interaction for sure with the
yeah,
local community that helps me.
yeah.
And as you see, my children have also growing up, and then talking to them, they are already in a more
Mm.
Singaporean
Mm.
language, and I get influenced by that as well.
The children are always the first to betray the heritage, right?
True, I guess it
Yeah.
really is into the upbringing as well. We were talking about the Indian
Mm.
saying of you get portions of your experience from different places, and I believe one of that really comes from home. And depending on what is done at home, that has an influence on the kids. So yes, you're absolutely right. A lot of that is from the school, their counterparts in school, but I think there's a significant influence from home as
Mm-mm. No, I was just joking. Don't take me seriously. But I think
well.
the interesting dynamic here of, adapting to the destination country, the first home now, as you say, but also keeping in mind where you came from, right? So is that an important part of for you, for yourself and your family, being a Malayali, being an Indian, in that sense?
Absolutely, it
Mm.
is. So we always try to keep that Malayali identity to be here. Of course, our primary intention to be the Singaporean first, but in order to keep our values and our distinction and the uniqueness and probably also the feel that what we are of a feel of us
Mm.
makes us to keep the Malayali identity to us. That is significantly important for us, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just want to ask you in Singapore, right? We have this kind of hyphenated citizenship, right? So in India, do you have to state your kind of your state or your ethnic identity, something like that? Is being a
What exactly you
Malayali
mean?
is being a Malayali part of the official identity in India?
Not officially, but there is
Mm.
also a very strong local pride that exists in Kerala. I should not say pride, but the quest to continue the cultural values and the heritage is definitely significant in each of the areas. As you probably know, India is so much vibrant and with so many different types of cultures, language,
Mm,
food.
mm.
Uh, everything is different in probably a few hundreds of kilometers. And within even a single state itself, there is difference in various things. And people try to keep that identity. And then uh, that does not, that probably strengthens the vibrancy of the culture. It enables us to enjoy multiple feelings, multiple types of food, multiple types of, cultural aspects. So I believe it is good in that sense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's so interesting, and I want to get to things like food and culture later on. But I think the thing that I should want to discuss now is which I have found with a few other Malayali migrants to Singapore as well, is what did you do when you first came to Singapore? Did you not also join an association right away?
Okay, it's interesting question.
Yes.
Yes. So I believe, as you say, when I came here, a lot of things were done very differently in general. Um, this is more from the official perspective as well as in a community perspective. So have the you search for similar experiences that you had, especially in the cultural and language forms. And then I found the Singapore Malayalee Association maybe within a few months of coming here.
Hmm.
And then I was able to get connected to them to try to, at that time at least, try to recreate the feelings that I had or try to recreate the things that I were doing and trying to identify myself to do and be associated with the group of Malayalis. So yes, absolutely. I encourage a lot of people to do that. And I think a lot of people naturally do that. Singapore Malayalee Association itself, probably I talked to you about this earlier, was founded in 1917 with a similar objective in mind that they wanted to
Hmm.
help the people who are coming in the ships to get settled, to direct them to places, to have them, say, a temporary shelter, provide them with food, provide them with guidance and directions to get to places and so on. And I guess today it is in a larger
Hmm.
objective, relatively has that objective combined with other local objectives for the association.
It was known as the Singapore Kerala Association at the time, right? In
That's
1917.
correct. That's correct. Yes. So there is a small story that we can find that Singapore Kerala Samajam was formed to send a greeting to the then uh, emperor or king of Travancore. At the time, Kerala was formed of different small kingdoms, and the southernmost part was called Travancore. So, in order to send him a greeting, it was formed, and then later on, it took on the Malayali Association or Malayalees activities, and also participated
Hmm.
in various local community activities, as we can see from the press notes from the archives of Singapore.
Mm-mm. So you joined the Malayali Association sometime in the end of the millennium, around 2000.
That's correct. Yes. So
Mm-mm.
I was attending initially. Then I started to actively volunteer from I think early 2000 onwards. If I can remember correctly, we had this major activities around the festival called Onam, and one of the activity was the Onam village sports and feast. Yeah, it is probably continuing for many, many years. Probably from the late 50s, we can see the description of Onam village in the annual magazines of Singapore. So I started to volunteer there in the Onam village, and then slowly I became part of the management committee, and then I had my journey with the Malayali Association from then on.
Right, right. How did you come upon the association? Did someone introduce you, or did you write to somebody?
Yeah, so I was regularly playing badminton at that time. So sports is, as you know, is one of the things that gets people into the community. As in, you can meet people if you go to similar events. And I think one of those sessions they were talking about the one of the events that was happening at some place of the Malayalees, and that's where I started going on. And at that time, probably it was not the village that I went to. It was another cultural event that I went to, and I could see a lot of Malayalis there. And then from then onwards, I got connected to the association.
Right, right. And you started volunteering, and until a couple of years ago, you were the president, right, of the association.
Yes,
Yeah.
I got the chance to become president in 2023. So 23 to 25 term, I was the president of Singapore Malayalee Association.
But not any longer.
So you mentioned about Mrs. Sunu earlier.
Yes.
So she's one of our, she is our first uh, woman president of Singapore Malayalee Association, and
Mm.
it was the right opportunity for her to be in there. And for myself, I had a number of other engagements that I am on, including finishing off my studies that I am trying to do now.
Mm.
So that's one reason, and I think it has been a good opportunity for me, and I have done my part of the contribution to the association.
Yeah, I mean, one of the studies I did for the Narayana mission was to look at the kind of the development and the history of volunteerism among the, I mean, it's so important to the mission, that the members volunteer, and not just the key office holders, but the ordinary members. And one obvious thing I found was that the volunteers come to the mission at certain junctures, right? They come as children, and they come maybe up to their teens, but when they start to work, that falls off dramatically, and then when they are close to retirement or when they retire, then there's a jump in the activity again. So I give you a lot of credit, for being the president for one term. That's remarkable. There's a lot of sacrifice, actually. So maybe I can ask you this question, right? Like, this what motivates you to give so much to the association?
I see.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I would say probably that has always been with me. My family, my father, my siblings, my mother had always been involved in some kind of community activity work from the past. When I was in school, I used to have similar activities of either helping others, doing, I should say, like a combined study activity together or some social activities together and so on. So probably I should say it came naturally to help out,
Mm.
but I should say the leadership part is probably because of the group of people that I have been involved with. I should thank the many other previous past presidents of Singapore Malayalee Association for leading me to that path. And then, it naturally just came on to that, as in I had been the chance to work with MM Dola in the early 2000s, then Mr. P.K. Koshi, who recently
Mm.
passed away, Mr. Jay Kumar, Mr. Prem. So all of them had a significant impact and impression on me, and also the motivation for me to take up the job and then be in that position. So I should say that it came as a progression,
Mm.
and that's how I was able to be in that position for one time.
Mm. Would you be able to say something about like the history of the association in Singapore, so that I mean, some Malayalis might not know, especially the younger generation. And I think the non-Malayalis, I think probably do not know much about the association.
Absolutely, yes.
Mm.
Probably we can also start with the Malayalis themselves. I think
Mm.
Malayalis started to come to Malaya first to do jobs on the rubber plantations and so on, probably the late or middle of the 19th century, the 1850 and so on. And then they progressively migrated to Singapore to have jobs in administration, accountants, and stuff like that. Yeah. And that is where they had this association in 1917, where they had started off with helping out the immigrants that are coming in to settle down. That was the first thing that we can think of. From then onwards, it had a natural progression. In the history, we can see that there were activities in the community level, generating funds for community activities for various things until 1940s. 40s to 50s, we don't have much records of the association. But from 50s onwards, it's still, it started significantly. We had one Mr. Shukud, who had brought who had brought enthusiasm by buying a shop house in Little India. This
Mm.
is at 44 Racecourse Road, which is still the
Mm.
current
Uh,
location in Singapore. Probably 1960s and 70s, as we can see, the Malayali Association was significantly a force because it seems there were branches. We had Katong branch, we had branches in various locations in Singapore for the Malayali Association because we could not have all the activities together in one place.
mm.
And at that time, we can also see there is a lot of cultural activities that were happening. We can see drama was one of the major activities of Malayalis during that time. There were also other associations that came up, which were specifically focusing on drama and so on.
Uh,
And it seems in Singapore, probably in from the 60s to the 2000, we had about 500 to 600 dramas that were, screened, or I should say, that was hosted by these associations at that time. Maybe from the 1980s to 1990s or so, the flow of Malayalis probably came down a little bit, as we understand. And then from then onwards, we can see with the new IT becoming more prominent, we can see more Malayalis coming into Singapore. An association probably has also taken that stabilized form towards the 80s and 90s. We can see that the Singaporean identity has become much more prominent, and the association started to become the from the Singapore Kerala Association. It became the Singapore Malayalee Association in
mm.
2006 onwards to show the fact that this is something about the Singapore Malayalis. Of course, we want to make sure that the immigrant Malayalis are also taken care, but the association's fundamental are based on Singapore Malayalee Association, which that significant or as Singapore's population and the identity becoming more crystallized to local features, it was trying to reflect that into the association itself. We can, from then onwards, if you see the leadership of the association has been conscious to make sure that we have a good mix of groups who are in the association who are able to
Mm.
bring both the local citizens, the naturalized ones, and the new coming ones together and form the Malayali Association and its activities more inclusive.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. So fascinating. I have a couple of questions to ask you. So around the time, like especially after independence, right? Because I think we know a lot more about migration, whether it's Malayalis or Chinese, to Singapore in the colonial period. But actually, there were migrants coming in from other countries to Singapore after independence. You yourself being one of them. And I've also spoken to some who came in the 1970s and maybe even later. When you came to Singapore, were you part of another kind of a wave of migration from Kerala?
Yeah, so not
Mm.
particularly from Kerala. I think that was there was a lot of people coming at that time from India in that sense,
Ah, okay.
because we had the IT was becoming more uh, prominent, and I would imagine that they had to have more people to take care of such jobs. And I guess at that period of time, there were quite more of the Indians came in, and then proportionally,
Mm.
I had been the one from Kerala, I should say.
But you were the only one from Kerala?
No, no, I don't mean to say that. I
Were
mean,
there a few others who also came and then also joined the association?
so
Mm.
particularly for me, I mean, on this specific activity of my study and the work that I see, it was only me. But I should say, in that time, we can see a lot of Malayalis came in
Mm, mm,
because of the fact that the IT jobs in Singapore were becoming more and more. and probably they were looking for more people to join that workforce, and that's where that came. And there were so many Malayalis that came around the time that I had, or just before and after. So that you're right that there was a beef that took more of Indians and therefore also Malayalis to this day.
And they have a lot of these migrants after independence have assimilated, right? They have integrated into Singapore society. Yeah, in 1998, I was a teacher actually, and there was this big thing in the education service about education technology. You know, we all had to learn IT, we all had to use PowerPoint, we all had to use slides and adopt IT in our lessons. There has to be a certain percentage, right? So tell on the other side of the equation, I guess, was India, the universities in India, was there an emphasis on IT subjects?
Um, I should say in 1992 onwards, India opened up the
Mm,
economy significantly and also had much more foreign companies coming into India and establishing the IT hub in Singapore, in India.
mm,
So there were a lot more people in the workforce by 2000. If you remember the Y2K, the
mm,
Y2K problem, the year 2000 problem by changing the year field in computers, a lot of people were trained from India to do that at one time.
yeah.
Similarly, all other computer technologies, all the key major computer vendors of the world or computer technology vendors of the world were establishing companies in India or their subsidiaries in India, and therefore creating a larger workforce in India to be ready to go across the world and then, and to be part of the worldwide workforce. Yes, so I should
Mm,
say
mm,
absolutely. There was a big, large number of people who were in the system. I should not particularly say it was in the education itself, but
mm.
once they do
Yeah.
that, then they had the opportunity to go and do that significantly and become trained in these areas where they might need, they will help in other, or they'll do work in
Mm.
such areas around the world.
Yeah. Did you probably do your degree was I can't remember now. Engineering, right? Was it
That's correct.
engineering?
Yes.
So it wasn't specifically IT.
No.
Yeah.
As I told you, I was fascinated by electronics. So I
Yeah.
wanted to do electronics and then play around the electronics subject. So it was not particularly IT.
Mm. So the migrants from Kerala or more generally India, were they engineers as well, or were they specifically IT graduates who came to
So
Singapore? Yeah.
So a lot of people who came at that time are engineers, and even still at this time,
Mm,
I
mm.
think are engineers.
Okay.
We could also see a large population of nurses from India. As you see, from maybe late 1990 onwards, you have to have a specific technology skill to be in Singapore, or particular specific skill. So I would say a lot of people are engineers, and also a few of them are nurses.
Yeah, I think around the same time, we started recruiting foreign nurses into our nursing service because no one wanted to do these jobs. Um,
Particularly for electronics at that time, I think late
mm,
90s was also a hub in Singapore. We had a number of electronics companies at that time here, which probably later on migrated across for various reasons. So a lot of, Singapore, when I talk to my Western counterparts, they would always say Singapore uh, you know, is Asia for dummies. So, they are safe to be here to have the Western feel,
yeah.
but to be still in Asia, they had the extreme, really good infrastructure and, all the facilities that the government offers for people to
Mm,
set up an office in Asia. So
mm.
a lot of people came and started here. And for a long time, the many companies headquarters were in Singapore, and they could do business from here, traveling to other places, including Japan and Korea, China, and all the other places.
Could we talk a bit about the waves of migration from Kerala to Singapore. I don't know much about the first wave, who were the kind of the laborers, right, for the rubber plantations and all that. Um, uh, I mean, we talked about the jobs, so there were economic opportunities, and that's why a lot of them came over. But what was happening in Kerala itself? Were there also like push factors, you know, motivating the migrants to leave Kerala? And were they leaving Kerala with an idea to settle? Probably not in the beginning, but eventually to go back to India. Is that the kind of mindset? And what was the forces which were kind of driving the migration?
That's a very good
Mm,
question, I think. So, if you see, Kerala particularly is an interesting place. It was the first elected communist country in the world. So, after independence, we had a lot of hopes for significant progress. I'm talking about Indian independence. But I should say from 1950s onwards, probably people could not get the same expectation that they had. And Kerala particularly took a lot of time to generate local jobs. And we can see even within India, in all metros, there is a significant Malayali population, even in Chennai, in Mumbai, in Calcutta, in Delhi. So a lot of people were leaving Kerala to other places to have their, the economic future. And particularly to Singapore, we can see a lot of people from the southern and northern part of Kerala here, especially in the government jobs like the PUBs, the LTAs, teachers. We can see a lot of teachers around here. And I was talking about the former presidents of Singapore Malayalee Association, Mr. Dola and Mr. P.K. Koshi, both of them were teachers.
mm,
Madam Sunu is also a teacher, but she's a next
yeah,
generation
yes,
Singaporean.
yes.
But they have this. You have met Mr. M.K. Bhasi from Sri Narayana Mission. He's also a teacher, so he
Mm.
came here and into the teaching job.
Was it chemistry
So
or physics? Yeah, I think.
yeah, exactly, chemistry.
Mm,
You're right.
mm,
Yeah, that's right. So I believe at that time that, or I should say, it is still there. From Kerala, you have a problem that we don't have jobs internally. Even for Malayalis, a lot of people have to go outside of Kerala to have if they were to have significant work, especially like engineering and so on, they have to go outside. They have to be either in one of the other Indian cities
mm,
or to be outside. So people prefer, or people go to US, people go to Australia, people go to Singapore. Even now, a lot of people go to Europe, like UK and so on. So
mm,
Kerala is in general a migrant state, I should say, and the wave of migration had always been there. These days, there is also a lot of people who are coming out from Kerala to even study. That is also with an intention that their next steps will be towards a job in the places that they study. We can see a lot of Malayali students in Singapore and other portions of the world as well.
I mean, I'm glad you mentioned study because the teachers, the nurses, and all that education, they were all educated. Is education historically important in Kerala?
Absolutely, it
Mm,
is. Absolutely, it is. So we have uh, the Christian missionaries who came to Kerala had a significant portion of their contribution in setting up a
mm,
lot of schools and so on. It is also that the uh, royal families before the independence uh, had given significant importance in setting up various schools and colleges. Similarly, immediately, I know that gave the fundamental idea that people will have education and specifically also health. So the health system in Kerala is also very good because of its historical reasons that, it probably has one of the lowest infant mortality in India. And in terms of literacy, at one time in the 1980s, Kerala was boasting itself to have 100% literacy in India.
Mm.
Yeah, literacy, as in, the definition of literacy was to be able to write their name. But that was important to say that 100% people were able to write their names, considering India as a background was a big achievement, and education was significantly important. Parents spent all they could, even if they were not able to afford, they spend a lot in the education. And in general, education was free in an Indian context. If you see the primary to secondary education system, only when you go to college you had to pay the fees. If I remember correctly, I had to pay something like $16 per year for my engineering for the 4 years. I mean, yeah, I'm talking about 1990s. And if you go to the masters, then government will pay you. Okay, I'm giving you a stipend to study. So overall, in that context, and that probably also makes India the feel or the world's factory to bring out working class people. But there is a significant importance for education in Kerala. Kerala particularly, there is a significant importance.
I mean, it's quite amazing. What is the mindset then? I guess a large proportion or even majority of the Kerala Malayali population have a university degree, but not necessarily they can find a job that is equivalent to their educational level, right? Does this create a frustration, or does it motivate people to, really try to find a niche for themselves, whether it's in Kerala or around the world?
Yeah.
What is the mindset of the migrant like?
Yeah. So you're right. A lot
Yeah.
of the population or the percentage, I don't have the number with me, the percentage of people having degrees and they continue to go to the post graduation is because they have the opportunity to go to it and there is encouragement. These days, I think the jobs have been increasing and people are trying to find jobs outside. There is motivation, but to be educated and to have the exposure has been part of their life, even if they don't do a job later on, but they have been going through that process of being a graduate, or a postgraduate was always there. And if you even look at a lot of the housewives, they are also are graduates. My wife, unfortunately, she could not get into her PhD and final and complete it, but she had done her Master of Philosophy, beyond her post graduation. So spent a lot of years in education in that sense.
Can we talk about the women Malayalis? Because one of the things that Narayana Guru wanted to do was to remove that discrimination against girls having education or women having education. Uh, what was the level, or what is the level of education among the women?
Oh, it is 50-50, I should say. There is, as long as I can remember, there was probably no distinction at all between women and men. And in general, in Kerala, there is a lot of places in India that exists the fact that the girl child is not, preferred. But I can't see that in Kerala so much. And personally, for myself, I have two girls. And I did not feel anything particularly for that at all. Probably because that kind of a thing doesn't exist in Kerala, and I can't. So importance for women's education and their prominence is significant in India, in particularly in Kerala, I should say.
I don't know if you know Shamala Senan from the Narayana Mission.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. She came in, I think, 1972, or is it 79? And she was not able to get a job. She had a degree from Kerala. She was not able to get a job because it was not recognized, and she didn't want to work in a factory. So she went ahead and, got a proper accreditation to do a accounting job in Singapore. And she's very capable, right? She's a very outspoken, a very intelligent lady.
Absolutely. Yeah. At least for now, except for the medical and dental profession, a lot of other jobs are already recognized in Singapore, and
Mm.
people who have their jobs can continue to work here in certain form. I must apologize. I had put my
Ah.
phone onto flight mode, but it is still receiving phone calls. I don't know why.
There's something going on there, definitely.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
There is one group of migrants whom I think are quite special from Kerala, and they're kind of your predecessors historically, right? The people who came to work in the blue collar professions in the naval base and the other military bases of Singapore. And that's why we have the naval based Malayali community, right? Could you say something about that wave of migration and getting into, becoming a fitter, becoming an engineer for those Malayalees? Is there this kind of focus, technical education?
So a lot of people
Mm,
in Kerala, there is a number of different types of technical institutes that we have, from engineering colleges to
mm,
polytechnics to the ITEs, as we call it, ITIs in India, as we
mm,
call them. So there is a significant number of such people. But even otherwise, I should say, there is some mechanical intelligence with people of Kerala, even if they
mm.
are not so much of have the degree or some level of educational qualification itself.
Yeah,
I mean, I have observed that they have
yeah.
a way to manage these kind of jobs and then be proficient in them in some ways. So
What
there is a
what
lot of
what
interest.
what do you mean by mechanical intelligence? Is there an example? I like that phrase.
I don't know what exactly it means.
Uh,
As I was telling you, I also had some people who are working on certain kind of maintenance activities,
yeah.
and the way that they can resolve issues in certain form on the engineering issues are much more intuitively compared to other groups. I don't think it is about the intelligence part, but
Mm,
they have a way of doing it that
yeah,
comes
yeah.
naturally to them, and it is more in these people that I have observed. Maybe because it is the survival instinct that you try to uh, make use of the available tools and then be able to resolve issues rather than waiting for the next level to come and resolve, and that helps to to ease the situation and keep the things moving, and that's
Mm.
probably something. The Kerala is always want to have people. Everyone wants to become a leader, and everyone is much more vocal, and the debate culture is significant in Kerala, I should say. So when a problem comes, you can always see that somebody is there to take care of it and do it, and probably that translates to what we were talking about in addressing an issue and resolving it, in certain forms.
I don't know what it was that exactly that the members of the Narayana mission told me, right? That a Malayali would form two organizations.
So today, if you count all the groups,
Yeah.
of course, with different objectives in general, including the ethnic groups, we probably have about 20 plus or 25 of them here. Um, I should say in after the 2010 onwards, we can see that all of these groups are working together. Of course, the individuality, as you mentioned, is there. The drive to form a group and then have that internally is there. But there is much more of collaborative efforts today that Malayali Association is leading that. And, in the recent Onam Village, we had a number of other organizations collaborating and doing things together. Each one took a portion of what of the entire type of activities, and then they were doing it together. And so there is a good harmonious culture, even though internally, as you say, we have this, as we grow, we split. As we split, as we grow, this is from a famous politician in Kerala. but that sense is there. That's also because of this, they are very much opinionated in
Yeah.
general. They want
Yeah.
to have an opinion and present it, which is probably different from the way that we can see in Singapore. And this is probably one of the big difference between the two, even though they are both Malayalis, I should say.
Oh, yeah. Could you say something about that being opinionated? Is this something that goes right down to the family level, to the interpersonal level with friends? Is arguing part of the lifestyle and the mentality of a Malayali?
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe we should also take. I mean, if you see, there was the education aspect, the
Mm, mm,
literacy
mm.
aspect, and we can see in Kerala we had the library culture from even I think the library council was formed in 1930s or so. So there was a big reading group of people which had both the if you read, you get more ideas, and you have the opportunity to have more thoughts. Newspaper culture was big in Kerala. All of us, even as kids, my parents insisted. I remember when in third or fourth standard, I had to write the newspaper headings every day morning. I didn't know at the time why it was, but later on it became a natural habit to understand what's going on around me. And therefore you had when you get together, you had conversations, and the arguing is part of the culture, I should say, whether it is positive, whether it is
Mm.
regulated is a question. Even if you see the TV shows from the Malayali groups, sometimes even though we have a moderator, he's thrown out of the moderation. But arguing is, I believe, arguing is part of that culture,
Mm.
and it is even in the friends level or in the family level that is still continuing to ask questions and then to discuss on various things.
Mm. How do I mean, it's a positive, really, isn't it? This arguing, this opinion sharing. How do you kind of reach a compromise or resolve differences?
Yeah.
Uh,
So I think this is very, very important, and I should say it gets resolved in various situations by itself. But the biggest lesson that I have learned is if we can argue without having the emotions and in a very polite way, in a systematic, informational way, that is extremely healthy to have. So if you can go in that form, and this also probably needs at least one person in this group to be significantly level headed to make sure that it group is participating in the right form, then and to be able to acknowledge the points. So I don't know exactly how to answer your question, but yes, I believe the conversational debates are always
mm,
all better, and to be able to understand perspectives and to reach to certain. You don't have to reach a conclusion, but at least you can
mm.
understand the perspectives, I guess.